The requirements for being an actor in the Elizabethan time period were clear. Be able to sing, dance, and sword fight, have great listening skills to jump whenever you hear your cue, and have a great memory and a good voice that does not fail to project. And of course, be a good actor. And a man. Yes, no women were allowed. The actors' roles in society were clear, as in the beginning they didn't have the best reputations. They were categorized as rogues and vagabonds. Actors weren't trusted, regulations were imposed, and licenses were granted to the aristocracy for the maintenance of troops. Actors would be stopped and asked for documents proving that they had an aristocratic overseer. However, as theater became more popular, they became famous and therefore treated with more dignity and respect. Day-to-day life for an actor in Shakespeare's company. Okay, so actors had the morning to rehearse and they performed in the afternoon because of the need for natural light. Plays were performed in repertory, and actors often had to deal with many parts jumbling around in their heads at one time. Writers would often write parts for specific actors to make sure the characters suited them, because they knew who was in their company. So, what specific actors were important during this time period? One's name is Richard Burbage. Richard Burbage is suspected to have been the first Romeo, and during his career he appeared in many plays. He also played many of the major Shakespearean characters, including Othello, Hamlet, Lear, and Richard III. It is likely Richard III was the most popular of Shakespeare's plays within the Elizabethan public and provided superlative part for Burbage. In addition, another very important actor's name is Edward Allen, a principal actor. He gained the respect and admiration of some of the most influential people of the day by playing title roles in popular dramas such as Tambourine, Dr. Faustus, and The Jew of Malta, written by Christopher Marlowe, and in Orlando Furioso by Robert Greene, and tons of other very important plays. As for the writers, writers included Christopher Marlowe, who was one of Shakespeare's friends. He was born in Canterbury, England, and his literary career lasted less than 6 years, and his life only lasted 29 years, unfortunately. His achievements. His most notable play is called The Tragical History of Dr. Faustus, which was aforementioned, and this ensured his lasting legacy. Ben Jonson also wrote many plays. He wrote mostly comedies. He is regarded as an English Stuart dramatist, a lyric poet, and a literary critic. He is generally regarded as the second most important English dramatist, after William Shakespeare, of course. During the reign of James I, among his major plays are the comedies Every Man in His Humor in 1598 and Volpone in 1605. As for theater life for the audiences, the higher up the seat, the more expensive it was. It provided cover on rainy days and distance from the lower class penny stinkers, aka the groundlings. There were also a form of concessions provided by the orange wenches. The wenches sold snacks like oranges, including rotten ones for throwing, nuts, and beers, as well as sometimes the wenches even sold themselves. To set the scene, the stage was raised and covered by a sort of canopy called the heavens. The canopy was topped with a real gold leaf, oftentimes, and there was a cut in the floor called a trapdoor for appearances and sudden appearances and disappearances. The stage had the audience surrounding it on 3 sides. There was also a balcony where the musicians were positioned, who played throughout the performances. As for the audience's behavior, they would openly talk amongst themselves and to the characters. They also supposedly threw things at the characters that they didn't like. In addition, Young noblemen oftentimes sat on the balcony and even on the stage for about 2 shillings. So, about Shakespeare's company. Shakespeare's company was first assembled under the patronage of Lord Strange, aka James Smith Stanley. But after he died in 1594, the company found a new patron in Henry Carey, the Lord Chamberlain, hence the name the Lord Chamberlain's been. The renewed company came to perform at the theater and the Curtain. In 1699, they moved to the newly built Globe. The story of how the Globe came about is actually quite interesting. In 1599, on New Year's Eve, James Burbage, who owned the theater, which was on the land of an old monastery, the landlord actually canceled the lease as a result of the audience's wild and uncouth behavior. The company gathered and dismantled the materials of the building and brought it across the river where the Globe was built. By 1600, the Lord Chamberlain's Men became the leading theatre company in London, and in 1693 they became the King's Men, under royal patent from James I. But notably, before that shift in management, the Globe also burned down in 1613 and was immediately rebuilt on the same plot of land. The company consisted of Richard Burbage, as I aforementioned, who was a sharer and principal actor, William Shakespeare, who was a sharer by 1595, and John Hemming, who was also a sharer, Augustine Phillips, William Kemp, who was a sharer and a clown, and Samuel Gilborn, which was one of the most prominent child actors at the time. To continue the story of the locations in which they performed, there was also an indoor theater, which was used between the time between Christmas and New Year's. Shakespeare and other companies, leading companies that is, gave command performances that accommodated less people and had higher ticket prices and actually was very well paid for the companies. Sadly, everyone has to die sometime, and when Shakespeare died in 1616, the theater went on until 1642, when the English playhouses were closed and used for building materials. The English Civil War began, and once it ended, the restoration of the monarchy theater was then revived, with many less stipulations, including the first female actor or actress, rather, documented in December of 1660. Now actors and actresses were welcomed, and Shakespeare's plays continued to be really, really popular.